As well as being able to schedule individual elements within the Revit model, such as rooms, doors, and furniture, we can also schedule materials that are included within the elements of a Revit model. So for example, if I select a floor here, this standard carpet pattern floor, click Edit Type, if I go to Structure, you'll see how the floor is made up of a number of layers with separate materials. I can then schedule these materials individually. So in order to do that, I go to the View tab, click on the Schedules drop down, and then instead of clicking Schedules and Quantities, I will click Material Takeoff. I can then select my category, so I'm going to select Floors, call it Floor Material Takeoff, click OK, and here we have the available fields. Now these fields are the same as you would see in a normal floor schedule. However, I scroll down, you'll see that we get to a subset of fields with a prefix called material. So these relate to the material properties of the materials within the floors. So what I can do is I can add the material mark, I can add the description, I can add the area, and I'm going to add the cost. So I'm going to also add the level into my schedule. So this level actually refers to the floor element rather than the material element. And I'm going to filter these floors by level equals ground floor, as I've just placed a more detailed arrangement of floors on my ground floor. I'm then going to sort by the mark, and I'm going to unitemize or untick itemize every instance. Change the formatting. I'm going to calculate the total cost for the area, but I'm going to keep the material cost as it is, and also I can't actually do a calculated total for the material cost. I'll then click OK, and here you see we have our material takeoff. So I'm just going to edit this again. I'm going to go to formatting, I'm going to hide the level field, and I'm also going to filter by the material mark begins with F for floor finish, because there are some other materials contained within here that have a blank mark which I don't want to include. So I click OK, and here we have a schedule. So this is the total material area. So if I were to highlight on, say, red carpet and go to my ground floor, these are the floors that have this red carpet material assigned to them. So I've got the material, the total area, and I've also got the unit cost, which if I go to manage materials and I search for, say, colored pattern carpet or carpet patterned, go to identity, so this is the colored patterned carpet with the mark FP1, and the cost is 7.5. So this is the unit cost. So in my building, this is the cost per meter squared. So in order to be able to calculate the total cost, I can create a calculated value. I can call this total cost. The type needs to be a currency because it's going to be a currency. I can then use the formula area multiplied by the cost. Click OK. If I click OK, now you see I get a warning saying inconsistent units, and this is because this formula includes a unit of meter squared within the material area, so I need to remove effectively one unit. So I need to make the meter squared equal meters, so I can just divide the whole formula divided by 1. Click OK, and now you'll see it works. I can go to formatting, total cost, and I can now calculate totals for the total cost. Click OK, and this is now the total cost of the material So 580 times 7.5 will equal 5,350. I can of course then decide to change the schedule format, so this could be unit cost, or instead I can select these two headers, go to modify schedule quantities, group, set that as cost, and cost per square meter, and then this could be the total cost. And go to format, sorting and grouping, and I can have a grand totals or totals only, and this will then give me the total cost and total area for all the floor finishes on the ground floor. I'm now going to place this schedule on a sheet, so I'm going to right click on Sheets, All, New Sheet, A3, and I can simply click and drag the schedule onto the sheet. I can make the columns a little wider, and if I double click I can go into the titles and just change the formatting in here, and I'll align everything to the left. I'll just right click on the sheet, rename, and call it material takeoffs. What I can also do to the material schedule is if I go into fields and I scroll down, I can also add an image to the material. So I can add the material image in. I can put this, say, just between the mark and description fields. And click OK. I'll just again format the heading. And then if I click within one of these columns, I can then select an image. This opens the Manage Images dialog box. Click Add. I can select one from I've just got one on my desktop for wood flooring. Click OK. And you can see nothing appears here, it just appears the name of the image that I've loaded in. But if I then go to my material takeoffs, you can see how it's then added an image of the material to this schedule on the sheet. So if you want to graphically represent on the schedule what the material looks like, you can use an image to do so. If I go back to my material schedule, I also now want to be able to see what types these materials are associated to, so what floor types they are associated to. So I can go to Fields, I can actually add in the Revit type name, and I'll put this at the end. So I'm going to sort it by material mark, I'm going to put a blank line, and then I'm going to sort it by type. Click OK. So this is the Revit type that is associated to. I could also add the type mark. So this is the floor type mark, which obviously is a bit more, it's a bit of a smaller piece of information to include. I've missed one out here, so I'm just going to call this floor external 01. Okay. So you can see here that I have two instances of the timber flooring type. One of them is associated to the standard timber wood finish, but one of them is associated to the standard timber carpet finish, which looks a bit odd. So I'm going to select this row here, go to my ground floor, and you can see it's associated to this floor. Now if I zoom in, you can see here that I have an area of, not that one, I have a split face here on this floor. I'm just going to isolate this floor in the view. And you can see here that this split surface has been created on this floor using the split surface tool, and then this material has been painted onto this floor using the modify paint tool. Now this can cause us problems because if I select this floor, you can see how this is the floor standard carpet patterned floor type, and it has an area of 548.624 square meters. So if I go back to my floor material takeoff, you see I have a standard carpet patterned type here, but I need to itemize every instance to be able to look at each floor individually. Untick that. So here is my 549 square meter carpet floor, which, if I go back to my plan, if I reset temporary hide isolate, go to my floor material takeoff, select this 549 meter squared floor again, go back to my ground floor, you'll see that it selects this patterned carpet floor. However, it's still showing me an area of 549 square meters, or if I change the units of the area to 3 decimal places to match the Revit, you see it's the 548.624. However, I've also got a 21.9 square meter painted timber flooring on that standard carpet patterned floor. I can tell this is painted because if I go to fields and then I use the add the material as paint parameter or field, I'll stick it in after cost. You can see now in this column that this timber flooring has been, it's got a yes because it's been painted on using the paint tool. Now really what should happen is that this timber flooring should remove a certain area from the coloured carpet. It should remove 21.9 square meters from the coloured carpet area of this floor. However, it doesn't. It simply adds the paint on top. So you need to be very careful when using material takeoffs and especially using the paint tool. And it's something that we, in practice, would always avoid using. We would never use the paint tool for reasons such as this. I can choose to filter out any materials that are as paint. So I can do material as paint equals yes, equals no, and that would remove the painted material. However, because it's still on my drawings and in my model, it therefore is not counted, and therefore this floor material takeoff does not truly represent the areas of each material type. So that's just something to be aware of when you are creating material takeoffs, and you must consider your method of modeling in order to create accurate floor material takeoffs. A few other things about material takeoffs. If I create a new material takeoff, and I can create a multi-category material takeoff, if I click OK and then add the category, so this is the Revit category, into the fields and then the material name, and I sort by category and then by material name. I itemize every instance, and I'll just put a blank line over the category. You'll see that this multi-category schedule does include system families such as ceilings, floors, roofs, stairs, walls. So unlike the usual schedule and quantities, a material takeoff multi-category schedule does include system families. You should also be very wary of how Revit calculates the areas for materials on loadable content. So let's take this furniture, this desk, rectangular table element as an example. So this is a piece of furniture, so I can go to View, Schedules, Material Takeoff. I'm going to go to Furniture. I'm going to add in the family, then the type, then the material name, and the material area. So I'm going to sort this schedule by family, blank line, and then by type. I'm going to hide the family name. But I'm going to keep itemize every instance so it lists each individual desk. To put a header on the family so I know what family I'm referring to. So here is our furniture table rectangular. So you can see how for this 1800 meter by 1200 millimeter desk, it's given me an area of the material for, say, the wood birch, which is applied to the worktop, as 5 meters squared. However, if I were to do 1.8 meters by 1.2 meters, that actually gives me a value of 2.16 meters squared. I can prove this by just going to my floor plan, going to annotate. I can draw a filled region over the top of the desk. You can see how this area is 2.16 meters squared. Whereas if I go back to my furniture material takeoff, you'll see that this wood birch is actually calculating 5 meters squared. I just change the formatting of the units to add a couple more decimal places on. So you see it's actually 4.62 meters squared. So that's definitely incorrect, because what it's doing is, if I go to a section view of this desk, what it's doing is it's actually calculating the area of the top, the underside, and all 4 sides of the desk and adding those areas together. So this is just really important if you apply materials to loadable families and then try to schedule them, that Revit will take each individual surface edge of the geometry. So what you're better off doing is having parameters within the family itself that would report the area either as an instance parameter or as a type parameter, where you add a formula to calculate the length multiplied by the width to give you the area, rather than using the material takeoff, as this will give you vastly incorrect numbers. So that's completes the lecture on material takeoffs. Please note that it is a much more involved process to create accurate material takeoffs, as shown by some of the examples in this lecture. You need to have an extra layer of management in terms of managing your materials and also the quality of your modeling, which if you're modeling by yourself and you're confident and you know exactly how everything's been modeled and documented, that's okay. But for larger projects with multiple teams, multiple people working on the models, this won't necessarily be as consistent. So just take a note of all those.